And we later found out from the hospital that's because I'm,
Undiagnosed bipolar.
mood swings and weird thinking brought on by severe stress, which rarely happens, thank
When you
God.
try your best, but you don't succeed.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're taking a deep dive into a really raw and personal account from Jonathan Kay's book, En route to the Sunrise Saloon.
Right, specifically that chapter, Falling Down, a breakdown in recovery. It's quite something.
It really is. And our mission, basically, is to go beyond just the story itself.
Exactly. We want to pull out the key insights, the lessons about, navigating intense stress, actual breakdown, and those first steps toward recovery.
What do you think you are, for Christ's sake? Crazy or something? Well, you're not. You're not. You're no crazier than the average asshole out walking around on the streets, and that's it.
Especially with mental health challenges involved.
Yeah, this chapter, it's our source material, and it's just this incredibly vivid window into a really pivotal, tough moment.
So honest. Let's dig in.
Let's do it. So we want to look at the warning signs, the crisis itself, and crucially, that beginning of a path forward. What does the source tell us first? Where does it start?
Well, it kicks off right after this really big stressor, right? The near sinking of the Fair Sarai. That whole trip sounds awful.
Yeah. Humbling, depressing, he calls it. And he gets back to Boston and just tries to, jump straight back into his real estate work?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But the text makes it clear, right away he felt something was different.
Ah, yes. That feeling, like a dark cloud hanging over him.
Yeah, exactly. Everything felt harder. He couldn't shake it. It wasn't just the boat trip hangover, so to speak.
No, sounds like more was going on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The source really emphasizes the stress just piling on. You've got this setting, dark, cold New England winter.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Not at all. Plus isolation, working alone mostly, and then the specific job pressures.
The real estate stuff.
Right. Tenants not paying rent, properties needing urgent fixes, deals he was relying on just collapsing.
It's that feeling he captures, doesn't he? Not one huge hit, but like 1,000 little ones.
Yeah, like endless small fires he's trying to stamp out, but they're just out of control.
That really paints a picture of just being completely overwhelmed. The cumulative pressure.
That's a key insight right there. Cumulative stress. It wasn't a single event, but this relentless buildup. Isolation, work pressure, even the weather. Like a perfect storm hitting his mental state.
Chipping away at him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the setup. Overwhelming stress, it's building.
Yeah.
How did this internal state, this feeling of losing his grip, start showing up on the outside? What were the symptoms described?
Well, the source points to some really noticeable changes in his behavior. One big one was cognitive fog.
Cognitive fog,
Like struggling with really simple tasks. He mentions writing a check, something totally automatic usually, suddenly taking 15 minutes of intense effort.
Wow. Yeah, that disconnect between knowing how to do something simple and just not being able to make your brain do it, that's a huge red flag.
It really is. And then there was this obsessive behavior starting.
The dusting.
Yeah, the repetitive dusting of his condo floors. With an industrial vacuum, he says, doing it way beyond what was necessary.
It's like he felt maybe if he could fix this external thing, make it perfectly clean.
It might somehow fix the internal brokenness. It's fascinating, that kind of ritualistic behavior under stress. Like trying to impose order on the outside when the inside feels like pure chaos.
Makes you wonder about other ways people might externalize that kind of internal turmoil, doesn't it?
It does. And then, critically, the chapter talks about this intense, unexplained anger.
Right. He didn't understand why he was so angry all the time.
Yeah, tiny things would just set him off, snapping at people who didn't deserve it at all. And he couldn't explain it, even to himself.
That uncontrollable, unidentifiable anger, that feels like a really critical symptom here. Scary.
Very scary. Both for him and, you imagine, for the people around him. Which brings us to a really pivotal moment, the intervention.
Yes. Because while he was spiraling, the source says his friend Wilmot saw what he couldn't see himself.
Thank goodness for Wilmot. He recognized how serious it was and did what needed to be done, called the parents.
That call seems absolutely crucial. Their author even says he didn't want their help, didn't think he needed it.
But his friend could see it. That phrase, see what I couldn't, that's powerful. Intervention just as he felt he was spiraling into the abyss, and fast.
It really highlights how important that outside perspective, that intervention can be when someone's in crisis.
Absolutely critical.
So his parents come and get him, take him home to the suburbs. He describes that time as sort of detached.
Yeah, not remembering much, just wanting the noise in his head to stop. Completely checked out from the real estate mess that had consumed him.
And then things escalate dramatically. The crisis point.
Right. Waking up at 3 a.m., still in his pajamas, goes to the garage, gets in his father's diesel sedan.
Just drives off into the fog. The source says he felt desperate, confused, just in turmoil.
That image of him redlining the engine in first gear, just driving, not really thinking, it's chilling.
And then the crash. He sees a telephone pole near home and just drives straight for it.
Totals the car straight down the middle, as the text says. It's just stark, shocking moment.
He later calls it a dramatic call for help, right? And specifically notes the feeling wasn't rage, but fear.
That's important. He gets out, physically, mostly okay scrapes, bruises, but internally, something just snapped.
The aftermath is just as jarring. Walking home barefoot, in pajamas.
Yeah, punching through the glass door to get inside, not feeling the pain, not noticing the blood, and then just going back to bed.
Wow. That level of detachment, dissociation from himself and what just happened, it really shows the depth of the breakdown.
Absolutely, complete dissociation.
So the next morning, 6 a.m., the police arrive, including someone he knew from high school, Steve Shaw.
Who seemed concerned, yeah. And from there, he's taken to Westwood Lodge,
A psychiatric hospital in Massachusetts.
and the admission process described. The orderlies taking his wallet, his belt, his shoelaces. Small things, but they signal a total loss of control, the seriousness of it all.
And then, right upon arrival, things get even more intense. This immediate psychotic episode.
Yeah, screaming about the devil, throwing furniture, a chair through a window.
What meds are you on?
Me? None. I used to be on lithium and Seroquel and Abilify, but I don't take them anymore. No. They make me foggy and they also make me bloated.
Yeah, I was on Xanax and Effexor, but I agree it wasn't as sharp, so I stopped.
You ever take Klonopin?
Klonopin, yeah.
Right?
Jesus.
Like, is it what?
Yeah.
What day is it?
Being physically restrained, strapped down, injected. That feeling he describes of being locked down.
It just confirms how deep the crisis was.
Yeah.
And the absolute necessity for that intensive professional care at that point.
Gives you a terrifying glimpse into what a psychotic break might feel like from the inside, too.
So he spends the next 30 days there at Westwood Lodge, starting to, as he puts it, face the music.
And this is where the diagnosis comes in, which is so crucial in the source.
Yes, bipolar disorder.
His initial reaction, according to the text, is almost darkly funny, right? Oh, is that all? Trying to deflect?
Yeah, but then the reality hits him hard.
The doctors explain it, chemical imbalances causing these extreme mood swings.
And crucially, they connect it back to his past. Make sense of things for him.
Exactly. They link it to those earlier manic highs, you know, feeling invincible, planning empires, retiring by 30.
All that energy.
And then the opposite, the crushing depressive lows, the anger, the frustration, feeling like he was drowning.
So for the first time, he has a framework, an explanation for why his life felt so unbalanced.
Yes. And the relief described in the source, realizing it wasn't just a character flaw, not just him failing. It was a medical condition.
It was in his head, but not in the way he'd always thought.
That shift in understanding is profound. From seeing it as personal failure to understanding it as a treatable, though serious medical condition, it changes everything, opens the door to managing it.
It really does. And even in the hospital, dealing with all this, he mentions finding moments of humor, lining up for meds, seeing the absurdity sometimes.
Yeah, finding levity in some patients' actions, sharing laughs with his parents during visits. He actually felt humor was healthy, a way to cope, laughing instead of crying.
That capacity for humor, for resilience, even in that setting, that's pretty powerful.
It really is. Of course, there's the tough reality, too, that doctors tell him he'll need to take lithium for life.
Right. His mother's reaction really underscores the impact on the family, too.
Definitely. But beyond the diagnosis and the medication, the source talks about something else happening during those 30 days. A deeper internal process.
Like finding some kind of mental discipline, a willingness to really look at himself.
Yeah, developing the fortitude to look squarely at his problems, his past life, warts and all, as he says, feeling it was necessary to move forward.
He starts connecting the dots, doesn't he?
Right.
Seeing the boat trip as a trigger, yes, but also recognizing years of pressure he put on himself.
All that drive to prove something, chasing deals, maybe seeking his father's approval underneath it all, pushing himself way too hard for way too long.
So the hospital's stay, in a way, forced this reflection. leading to that key realization. Okay, he'd taken on too much, he wasn't invincible.
But, and this is so important, he wasn't broken. He wasn't finished.
That distinction is vital. He wasn't giving up.
No, he knew leaving the hospital was just the start, that serious challenges were ahead.
Which brings us to that image he uses near the end of the chapter, that Chinese saying.
Get knocked down 8 times, get up 9. He knows how relevant that would become.
It perfectly captures it, doesn't it? Managing a chronic condition like bipolar disorder isn't a one-and-done fix.
Not at all. It's ongoing. There will be setbacks. It's about that repeated effort, finding the strength to rise again each time.
So the diagnosis gave him understanding. A map maybe, but the recovery itself. That required deep internal work, facing hard truths, plus the external support and medication.
Exactly. It wasn't just about brain chemistry. It was about courage, persistence, addressing those underlying pressures, and finding that inner strength he didn't know he had.
So wrapping this up, what does it all mean? We followed this incredibly powerful journey. Intense stress piling up, the breakdown, the crisis, intervention, diagnosis, and those first tough steps toward recovery.
Yeah, this deep dive really shows you how overwhelming pressure and maybe underlying conditions can just erupt. It hammers home how vital it is to have people who see you, really see you, and the absolute necessity of professional help in a crisis.
And it highlights that immense internal strength needed to start healing, that willingness to be honest with yourself, accept the hard stuff, and just find the fortitude to keep going.
It's such a potent reminder, isn't it? That even when things feel impossibly dark, understanding and support can light a path forward.
Definitely. Now here's where it gets really interesting, thinking about that journey. Jonathan's story starts with being knocked down, hard. But that lasting image is resilience, getting back up.
The get up 9 part.
Exactly. So here's our final provocative thought for you, listening. How do we learn to tell the difference between, the normal stress we all deal with and the signs that someone, maybe ourselves, maybe someone else, is truly heading towards a crisis, needing real help? And what does getting back up actually look like after a fall that significant? Something to maybe ponder as you go about your day?